Reportedly, some are still searching for potential explosives that may have been placed around here. Now, as the head of the province, Hervé Morin, told us earlier today, the problem is that essentially he feels that the country is waiting for the next attack and the one after that. He's concerned about the fact that French society has become increasingly fractured and that there's no end in sight. What we also know for the time being is that, as you mentioned, the priest has been killed, his throat was cut, and there are 3 wounded, one of whom is currently hovering between life and death in hospital.
And remind us, Sanam, of the circumstances, how the men entered the church and what time this happened roughly?
So this happened earlier this morning when the 2 men who were armed with knives entered the church. They took 5 hostages, amongst them the priest who was killed, 2 nuns and 2 worshippers. According to the country's Interior Ministry spokesman, the situation was handled very quickly. In trying to leave the church, they were shot dead. But in the meanwhile, they'd managed to kill the priest, they'd managed to wound several others. Now, we know that they don't know whether this is completely ended because, as I mentioned earlier, there are still some searches going on for explosives. Now, what I do have to say is, and I'd like to talk about the priest because we've been speaking to some local residents, and there's a real sense of sorrow in this sleepy town of 28,000. One of the employees of the funeral house that works locally said that he knew the priest, that he'd worked here for 10 years, and that his church was actually his home. He actually devoted his entire life to the church. Another woman told us that she heard some 20 gunshots, and this could have happened when there was an exchange between the security personnel and the 2 attackers as they were trying to leave and prior to their death.
Thanks very much, Sanam. Sanam Chantier.